Welcome back to Pop Goes the 60s. I'm Matt Williamson, and today we're going to talk a little bit about the original Beatles bass player Stuart Sutcliffe. But we're not going to talk much about his playing in the Beatles and how he came into the band or left the band. We're going to talk a bit about his artwork, because that's one thing that the Beatle books never talk about his actual art, because while they're talking about the story of the Beatles from a rock music perspective and not an art perspective. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the art today. And I'm lucky you look at me stand in my little studio here, the back part of my studio. I typically am seated way over there, and this area that I'm in now is the backdrop. It's under construction right now. It's a disaster behind here. But in the meantime, I made this into my little Stuart Sutcliffe gallery. And I was lucky enough to find a piece of his artwork at a very young age. This piece here is ink on a notepad. And I bought this back in 1985. I was in high school, and in Goldmine Record Magazine, where I was purchasing albums and stuff from different parts of the country, somebody had got their hands on a notepad, and they must have got it at auction, and they were selling these for $35 a piece. And it was just a single page, and this was advertised as being the backhead of John Lennon. Now, this could be the backhead of anybody, but that's what they said. And this is the certificate of authenticity above. Faces number 8, and this is the 28th page from that notebook. So I guess it's legitimate, and it just goes to show you that back in the mid-'80s, his work was still not really appreciated. So to get a sketchpad page for 35 bucks kind of tells you something. But that started to change as we get into the 21st century, and I'll talk about that in a bit. Now, the next piece here is a self-portrait of Stuart, which I believe is from 1959. Now, one of the main sources I've got for all of his work is Stuart Sutcliffe, a retrospective. This book came out in 2008, and this particular painting is not shown in this book. It shows tons of his work, and it's amazing how much work he had from 59 to his death. And you can see completely why he left the Beatles. He was not set up to be a musician. This was his full-time gig, and you'll see why he had to leave the band. This piece below here, this is from 61/62. It's a mixed media, and what it appears to be is, I don't know if there's a paper program or something underneath, and there's paint over the top of that. I really like the colors on this. That's why I picked this one, and this bottom painting, like a couple of the others, I've taken out of this book. So these are about 5x7, so they're small reproductions. So I think this book goes into the actual size these were, but I can imagine how impressive they would be, which is why I got this next one here. So this is one that I purchased, or was purchased, from the Stuart Sutcliffe estate. So starting about 4 years ago, his estate started to sell prints on the website. And there's this great introductory deal. And you can get different sizes. This is a reproduction. I don't know what the original size was of the original painting, but this was about the size I wanted, and it was a fairly good deal, I thought. And I loved this painting. This is one of his more colorful works, 1959, because as you see, as he gets into 61, 62, his work gets darker and more abstract. So the style, it was, I guess, late abstract expressionism, I guess is what you'd call it. And I was just really taken with this. I mentioned the color, I liked the geometric shapes of it, and this was a gift to me from my wife for my birthday 2 years ago. So I was very happy to hang this in my little gallery here. Now, moving along to this last piece I have framed, these are 2 more paintings. This is another early one, 1959. This one is called Oil and Mixed Media. And you can see the blues and the golds again. He went away from that a bit, and this is one of his later paintings, 61/62. This is red oil on canvas. And this painting here is the one that's on the cover of this book. This is one I may have gotten a large print of, but it was not available for purchase. There were all kinds of paintings in here in this book, and it really shows how prolific he was during this time. And he was must have been painting nonstop when he left the Beatles. So it really shows me how he wasn't cut out to be in the Beatles, and this is what he was cut out to do. Stuart originally was not accepted in a Liverpool art program, but was accepted by Edoardo Palazzi, who was a teacher in Germany, who was a pretty well-renowned instructor, and he took Stuart under his wing, and that's who Stuart went to study with when he moved full-time to Hamburg and was engaged to Astrid. So during that time, he set up his studio in the attic where her mother lived, and he had a lot of space up there in which to work. And unfortunately, he ended up getting sick, and that slowed him down a bit, but it's amazing how much he produced during this time. Right now, I just checked the website. For a while now, you haven't been able to buy anything on the website. I don't know what happened, why they pulled off selling prints. And this book that I showed you, the retrospective here, this is now out of print. I just checked. I'm like, this was bought just a couple years ago, so it was readily available, and for 20 some bucks. Now it's out of print and very hard to find. So there's been, I think once his paintings went and his prints were being sold on the website, and there was a lot of, there was some promotion around that, and I think that got people interested, but I'm not sure. Maybe they didn't sell that well. Maybe that's why they pulled them off. I don't know, but I would have loved to have been able to send you somewhere to buy this book, because it's got a wonderful history. A lot of the old photographs we've all seen that Astrid had taken, other photos by Rod Murray and Jürgen Vollmer, and all kinds of documentation of some of his schoolwork and things like that, so you can see what he was doing. Very good story. I think this is a great, if you can get your hands on this book, it's well worth it. All right, well, we'll come back to the desk here, where I do most of my work. Finish off the video here. Now, the guy that really recognizes Stuart Sutcliffe's work is a guy named Professor Donald Cuspit, art critic and historian. And here's what he has to say about some of Stuart's work.
He is what I would call a late abstract expressionist, and it's very interesting that he was in Germany. I would say he was trying to work through some emotional issues. I would argue that what you have in Stuart was an effort to make contact with his primary creativity, and that is visceral, and that comes out as, quote, raw emotion, raw expression. Such painting is really psychosomatic. It's body, mind together. That's the fantastic thing about abstract expressionism, that there's no separation. In a very short span of time, he produced an incredible body of work. There's no question. It's really as good as the best of the second generation abstract expressionists. And I think it would have gotten better. If he stayed in Germany, it would have gotten, I think it would have been really major.
Now, one of the things that jump-started new interest in Stuart Sutcliffe's painting career was the 1994 book and film Backbeat, starring Stephen Dorff. I still remember seeing that film. I'm not a guy who likes biopics at all. I thought that was pretty well done. And I saw it was at an art house. It wasn't a generally released film. And at least in my town, it wasn't. And I saw it, and I really appreciated it. And I only saw it that one time, and I still have a fairly vivid image in my mind from that film. So I was taken with that film, and I think that started a bit of a resurgence. So by the year 2000 is when you started to see some of his artwork being more curated. The estate put the website together. There were showings at the Guggenheim and things of that sort. So I was going to go into another topic with regard to Stuart Sutcliffe in this video, but I've decided I'm going to do that in a part 2 video. And these books you see, that's the part 2 that I was working on, and it just didn't really go with this art angle that I took in this video. I've wanted to do this video for a while and share some of what I have of Stuart's artwork and just let you know what I know. I've done a little bit of research on his work, and it's a fascinating story. And for me, his artwork really does something special for me, and that's what artwork is supposed to do, artwork that's beloved, and it's, I guess, in the eye of the beholder. And I really, this speaks to me. So I thought maybe it might speak to you, and that's why I thought I'd go into it a little bit here. Thank you for watching. My part 2 on Stuart Sutcliffe is going to be more of the business side as opposed to the art side, so I think you'll find it rather fascinating. So stay tuned for part 2 coming very soon here on Pop Goes the 60s.